Good evening, guys. Thank y'all for tuning in. This is the Weekend Juicebox Heroes podcast. I'm one of your hosts, PK, and we have the Sweet B Bones Bryles with us. Just Chris is with the family. They are sick, so we hope everybody starts to feel better over there. But yeah, man, we're coming off of Christmas. It was up this past Thursday. So Bryles, I hope you guys had a wonderful Christmas, man. How's the last few days been?
It's been fantastic. Christmas landed perfectly in the week to where I got to take a couple extra days off. So yeah, I've been off since Christmas Eve. It was fantastic. Nice. Got to get together with the family. We had some good family time and a little bit of quiet time. Not like unfortunately what Chris is having to deal with and a family full of being sick. But yeah, no, it was absolutely fantastic. And everybody out there listening, I hope you had a fantastic Christmas as well. And PK, how did your holiday go, sir?
It went good, man. It was busy. I think like it is for most families, right? I think we had like 4 different places to go on Christmas Day. And then my next to youngest daughter just got here today. So we did another Christmas earlier this evening. Right. So it's been a busy last few days, man. But, look, all in all, it was fantastic. Very blessed to have all the family together and, looking forward to 2025 finishing off strong. We got the Horns coming up on Wednesday to close this thing out, and then we'll start 2026. So let's get into this thing, man. There's still not a lot of movement, a lot of action. I mean, you I'm on X all day, pretty much every day, not so much just for Astros, but just in general, right? And there's just not a lot of movement, right? So I would suspect that coming after the New Year's, right, coming into early January, you're going to start to see, some movement going on around the league. I mean, you still have Tucker's available, Bregman's available, Fromber's available. I mean, Ranger Suarez is available. I mean, just to name a few, right? Bo Bichette. You know what I'm saying? So there are some very big names out there. Now, when we talk about that, the reality of it, as far as the Astros are concerned, you're pretty much not available. You're not available to any of those guys. I mean, just because of the sheer magnitude of their contract, right? We're going to get to the Astros a little bit, and we're just going to kind of freestyle this whole episode if y'all are cool with it. Like, I still think Bregman's going back to Boston. I think Bichette's going to go back to Toronto. Right. Kyle Tucker. Kyle can go really anywhere that wants to pay him. Now, we all know how the team out west pays their top free agents in deferred money. I don't think that's a Tucker thing. And then Ranger Suarez, I really don't have a land. Maybe the Mets, but they could also go for Fromber, right? Also, which I think might be a little bit less than Ranger, but like I said, we still have a lot of big names out there. No big movement for the Astros. I mean, nothing really, right? So, Riles, what do you seen the same thing? I mean, what have you read? I think you had something that you saw that you wanted to talk about this evening.
Yeah, I did. Actually, there were a few things out there. When I was doing research earlier for the podcast today and trying to figure out some of the things that, we could talk about. And anyway, I even had Grok on X help me out there. And one of the things that surprised me that I didn't see, now that you've brought up Kyle Tucker, is that there's a lot of people thinking he's going to be the guy holding the short end of the stick when all these big free agents end up signing and not getting that bag that he's hoping for from any of the big name or the big spending teams. So if that was the case, I believe it might have, I don't want to say who it was because I don't remember exactly, but I did see a tweet out there saying that there was a possible pillow contract where he would maybe sign like a 1 year with the option after that with the Astros if he does end up, not going on some huge team contract somewhere. I honestly, even though that's been put out, I don't think that that's going to happen. I would love to have Kyle Tucker, patrolling right field for us. I think that'd be fantastic. I mean, he would instantly upgrade the defense and he would instantly upgrade the offense. But at the same time, that's where we've got Cam Smith right now. And Cam Smith was a huge part of, the Kyle Tucker trade and him leaving. So I really don't see him coming back, but it would be nice. You did also mention Bregman in there. I can see him going back to the Red Sox, but from what I'm to understand, there was a little bit of bad blood in there too. So I can easily see him flipping over to the Tigers if the Tigers are willing to spend the money. But that's one of the things. It's, we haven't seen that. And then bringing that up, I've got a tweet up from Jeff Passan. He put out a huge tweet. Let's see, that was on Christmas Eve. So if you guys are looking for it, I've also reposted it on my account at Sweet B Bones, so you can find it there. But he was going over the total outlay for every Major League Baseball team. And when I say outlay, that is how much money you spent or deducted from your payroll, either via trade or via a free agent signing. So far, total outlay, and this is not a huge shocker here, is Toronto. They're up $277 million. So I was going down the whole thing and trying to figure out, because obviously we've made some moves. We haven't had any, these blockbuster moves that, we were hoping for as far as like pitching was concerned, or possibly an outfielder or something like that. But we have made some moves. So our total outlay since the end of the season and all of our actions, we are currently at negative 1.7 million. So what does that mean? That means in free agency, we have spent 2.6 million. And then via trades, we have deducted 4.3 million. So not really overall that much. So when we were talking about, Chris's favorite player getting traded to the Braves, it was, I think, a money move because it didn't make sense to have a utility infielder paying him that much when in reality he's not going to play for us on an everyday basis, assuming we're all healthy. I know we've all talked about that. But anyway, I can definitely see why they would make that move, but they really haven't done much. I mean, when we're talking about overall adding 2.6 in free agency and subtracting 4.3 in trades, I mean, it just isn't much. So all those big names you were talking about, the Ranger Suarez, the Kyle Tuckers, the Frombers, the Tuckers, all these guys, we need to see some of these pieces fall, I think, before the Astros start making some moves. And I think when they do make some moves, we're not going to see any of these big blockbuster trades, free agency pickups or signings, and anything that, we were possibly hoping for. The one thing I do think we'll see is once all those big names start to move, we'll see kind of that second tier is where the Astros are going to end up falling in that. And keep in mind, we still don't need anything in the infield. We definitely could use an outfielder. I think, with Cam Smith being in right and us hanging on to Myers in center field, that leaves that left field spot kind of open. We do have a couple guys we could put out there, but I definitely think that's a place where we can upgrade. So the only other thing that I'll say before I turn it back over to you is when we're looking at spending in this free agency so far and some of the blockbusters that have come out, there have been two teams that really surprised me. One of them being the Pirates. I am shocked at how much the Pirates have gone out there and actually spent. The Pirates are a young and kind of up and coming team in the National League, but at the same time, I did not see them spending money like this. I always thought that they were in that same kind of tier level, like the Tampa Bay Rays, like they want to have smart money and that's about all they're going to do, and just hope that their coaches are going to be able to develop the guys and their minor league systems are going to be able to develop the guys. So the fact they're out there spending money was a little bit of a shocker to me. The second one was the A's, and that does directly affect us. The Athletics are gearing up and trying to ramp up for their move to Las Vegas. So from as long as they stay on schedule here, they're scheduled to be in Las Vegas. I'm sorry. They are scheduled to start play in Las Vegas in 2028. And when they get to Las Vegas, they want this to be a big splash. So they're starting to sign some of their studs that they would normally trade off or just let walk in free agency. And they're going to start gearing up. So keep an eye on them as we go through this next season and actually the next 2-3 seasons, see what they do. And, hopefully we're going to be able to just keep up with everybody, because I think the AL West is about to be super, super competitive coming up, assuming that the Rangers still want to be in it, assuming that, the A's are spending like they do, Seattle, obviously, and then us. So, I mean, I think the only one, holding the losing spot as of right now is still the Angels. They've got a lot of financial things they got to figure out on that. But anyway, PK, as far as the free agency so far, as far as the trades so far, what have been some surprises that you've seen or some things that stuck out to you?
Well, I mean, from a money standpoint, like you talked about, like the DeBond move was fairly surprising, right? As much as we have kind of, you kind of complain and bitch and moan and he gets up there and doesn't do anything, but then out in the outfield, he's a fantastic glove, and he's won a Gold Glove, twice now as a utility guy. That was a little bit surprising to move, but then when you see what he got, what he's going to get paid as a utility guy, it makes perfect sense, right? I know we're still about halfway through the offseason, right? We still have at least a whole another month and a half before, pitchers and catchers report. There's a lot of things I would expect, like I said, to start moving here fairly soon. But at the same time, we've also seen, like last season, we saw, players not being on the team after the spring has already started, after they've all reported, and they come in late or they sign late. I think that's probably the most surprising was the DeBond move, but it was only surprising from the initial, post of, seeing the move, because he's been a mainstay here for the last several years. We know what we're getting with him, but when you look at it from a financial standpoint, like it makes perfect sense. I do have a little graphic here. Like we can talk about it as we can go. These are the offseason moves, right? Your additions so far: the Mike Burrows, Nick Allen, Roddery Munoz. That was a Rule 5 draft from a couple of weeks ago, and then Ryan Weiss from the KBO. And like we mentioned, we lost, Dubon via trade. Fromber is free agent. Jacob Melton Jacob Melton was part of the trade to get Mike Burrows. McCormick was, he chose free agency. Same with Urias. Caratini's still a free agent. Brendan Rodgers, I mean, he was hurt. At the end of the season, Luis Garcia, unfortunately, we all know what happened with him. We saw it, if you watch these guys. And Pedro Leon, he's with Baltimore, or was with Baltimore for like a day or two. But, going into this offseason, the focus was starting pitching, right? And you acquired Mike Burrows, right? Devastating changeup, mid-90s fastball. And to tie it into your Pittsburgh point from earlier, I can't remember a time, and I'm not saying that there hasn't been, but I can't remember a time where Pittsburgh has been a mover, and like a mover in the acquiring. We're used to them. They're kind of like a Tampa, right? Where they have the good talent because they're not a good baseball club. They get, higher picks. These guys, they move these guys, right before they're, due for a contract. They get prospects back. They have Brian Reynolds and, O'Neill, Cruz out in center. Of course, you've got Paul Skeens, right? Then you go and get Brandon Lau. That was who went up there, right? Brandon Lau.
Mm-hmm. That was one of them.
So, and so I'm not used to seeing Pittsburgh make moves in that direction. I think, and not to start a Pittsburgh Pirates, podcast or breakdown, but I think what they're trying to do, and this is probably really obvious, but they have Paul Skeens, and they've got nothing around that guy. And you have the best pitcher in the National League, potentially all of MLB. I mean, he's right there with Tarek Skubal, right? And so they are trying to build as Pittsburgh can build around that guy. They desperately needed offense last year. They picked up one player. I mean, I don't know what their moves are going to be going forward, right? But the Mike Burrows, it fills a starting pitching spot that we currently have vacated from Fromber or Luis Garcia. Hayden Wisniewski's coming back off of an elbow, right? Ronel Blanco is going to be coming back off of an elbow, right? You have Arrighetti, who, we talk about it, we make fun about it, got hit in the finger by a line drive and then got hurt again, right? So the Weiss move, Ryan Weiss, from the KBO, right? We talked about that before. The KBO is a level between AAA and the major leagues, right? So, we know he's got the stuff that to hang. So we say it over and over again. We want to see these guys get into the lab, get with our coaching staff, see what they can produce. So you've addressed some starting pitching, but these are guys that are 3, 4, 5 guys, right? You're banking on Hunter Brown leading this rotation, which of course is, that's a given. You're banking on Christian Javier going back to 2022, Christian Javier, right? Christian Javier prior to the injury, to his elbow injury. And then you've got a 3, 4, 5 kind of mashup of several guys, right? Was Wisniewski coming back off the arm. JP France, we saw a little bit of him towards the end of last season. He was coming back off of a shoulder, right? Arrighetti, AJ Blueball, now Weiss, now Burrows. You know what I mean? So you've got like 6 guys over for 3 spots. I think, we're not in the Fromber game. We're not in the Ranger Suarez game, right? Those guys are going to, command a lot more money. Fromber is going to be what, 31, I think, this season coming up. I think.
Yeah. And he's looking for like a 6 or 7 year contract.
Exactly. And like, that's just it's not good ball. Not, business wise you're paying for 3. In his case, you're paying for 2 to 3 prime years that he has left. Right.
And hope for the best.
Right. And then you're sitting there on years 4, 5, 6, paying this dude an insane amount of money to not be the guy you're paying for. Right. So Crane's not going to do that. We all know that. So he's gone. Ranger Suarez is young, really good. He's just going to be out of the market. So like you said earlier, we're looking at mid-tier, starters somewhere. You still need a backup catcher, right? I know Cesar Salazar, Cesar Salazar can, fill that role. Caratini played a hell of a backup catcher for us last season. I like Caratini, but at what cost is it going to be, right? I think he had a good enough year to probably get more on the market than I think probably what Houston wants to pay, right? So, like you said, you still need an outfield bat, but you also have a lot of outfield guys, man. Like you still have Myers on the roster, Zach Cole, Jesus Sanchez that we always freaking forget about, Cam Mountain right, Jordan who can play left, who's primarily going to be a DH, Altuve if Espada gets a wild hair pizzazz and puts him back out and left. You've got 4, 5, 6 guys that you can put out into that outfield to see what's going to happen. So I still think you need to address starting pitching. I know they also still want some bullpen help, right? We all know we went through a lot of pitchers last year because of injuries. We all saw a lot of guys from our minor league step up and help this rotation out and this club out. But you always need pitching depth. Always, 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 right? Look at what we thought we had coming into 2025 as far as a depth outlook, right? We knew what we had in depth wise, and those guys started dropping like flies. And you get to go to the minors, and you had to find these guys, and you had to find a Jason Alexander and Brandon Walter, and, Colton Gordon, and have those guys come up and hang for you. So you're always needing depth. So I still think you need some starting pitching, like another mid-tier, like 1C type of guy, right? Like a Yusei type. And it's funny that I say that, but that's kind of what you're looking for, that mid-tier, starter that's going to end up giving you really good innings out of that 3, 4, 5 spot. So I am ready, though, to see some movement. I'm going to tell you, man, like sitting here, trying to, think about an episode or watch on X and, try to look through Astro stuff, and there's just not a lot of stuff going on. Like, I'm ready to see some movement, something, anything.
Yeah, no, I agree. You did mention on the catcher position, I'm kind of surprised they haven't shopped that a little bit more yet because, there's definitely going to be catchers out there that we can use as a backup. Diaz obviously is going to be our starting catcher unless,
Mm-hmm.
I don't know, he trips and falls taking the, lights off the roof, then, he's going to be our starting catcher. So Cesar Salazar is a very good defensive catcher. My problem is that he is a very light hitting catcher, which don't get me wrong, for a backup, that's fine. We talked about it a few episodes back, having Caratini out there as a backup catcher who could also play first, who could also come in for clutch hits, or you could just slot him into the DH spot if you needed to, because he was a very good hitting catcher. That guy's going to be super valuable in the market right now, in the free agent market. So I agree with you. I don't see him coming back, unfortunately, because I would really like him to, but that is just kind of the case there. Anyway, my whole point to wrap that up is saying that, I think that Cesar Salazar, he's kind of like what you said the KBO is. It's like that quadruple A. It's like he's good enough to be on a major league roster somewhere, but until his hitting improves, you're not going to see him probably stick unless there's an injury, either on our team or somebody comes and tries to get him away from us because they have an injury at the catcher position. So he reminds me a lot, and we had him for a hot minute. We had Kevin Cash as a backup catcher who defensively absolutely phenomenal, but the dude, I think he hit like .056 for like 2 seasons in a row. Like he got like basically 2 hits each season. So great defensive catcher, but that was about it. Now, just to address what you were talking about with the starting pitching. Yes, we've had some acquisitions, and I think, having Burrows and Weiss added to this, with everything that was up in the air, I think were some pretty good acquisitions. However, we're not talking about trying to just fill out a starting 5 on a rotation. Don't get me wrong. Last season, there was a point where we were just trying to get 5 guys in a row
That's right.
to pitch back to back to back to back. So if we have these guys for depth, that's fantastic. But the problem is right now we have Hunter Brown, who's a stud number 1. We all know that. And then past him is some dudes that are 4s and 5s on your pitching rotation that we've got a plethora of. And also we've got guys that have injury problems, or they had injury problems, at the end of last season, just like you were talking about JP France. I got to see JP France in some of his rehab starts at the Sugarland Stadium. I forgot what the name of it is off the top of my head. But anyway, thank you, Constellation Field. And I will tell you, he did not look even remotely close. I thought even for AAA, I thought they probably should have sent him to AA and let him kind of get his feet wet there and then bring him up. Now, keep in mind, the dude's going to be working hard. He's been working hard all offseason, I'm sure. So we'll see if he can get back to the form that, we were used to seeing him in an Astros uniform, and hopefully he can contribute to the rotation as well. But to the point, we don't have that solidified number 2 guy. I'm not saying he's not on our roster right now, but we're going to need somebody to surprise us and to step up and actually take that position, as opposed to, just having guys that are used to being 3, 4, and 5s. So we'll see how that all plays out. I think that the Astros are going to go out there and make probably one more starting pitching move. To the extent of it, like I said, it's going to be mid-tier, I think, at very best. So we'll see what happens there. The infield, I think, as far as the infield is concerned, we're completely set. There's no way we're moving anything out of the infield, in or out. And keep in mind, guys, I think we've probably got the best infield right now in the American League. So I don't think we need to go any further on that. The only possible move is, if I think we talked about it a little while back, is if for some reason the Mets come up and they just really want Walker. And I'm sure that, we would be willing to listen on that. But other than that, that's going to be about it. And then, we already talked about the outfield. Right now, our outfield is kind of an incomplete question mark, because we've got a bunch of guys right now, but we need dudes. We need a dude out there that can play. If Zach Cole can perform like he did at the end of the season, that'd be fantastic. But, we know from any of these guys, and this is baseball history, not just the Astros, these guys that come out and are on fire, coming out of AAA, especially at the end of the year, they tend to regress a little bit coming up the next year. And it's not necessarily just because the guys aren't as good or they were lucky when they came up. It's because now, guess what? Every other team we play is going to be like, oh, hey, they got Zach Cole. We need to figure out how to, actually pitch to this guy and actually get him out. I mean, that's not going to hurt his defensive stats at all, but they will try to figure him out at the plate. And we've seen that all over the place. So look at Loperfido when we had him and he came out and just on fire. And then he ended up going to Toronto. And I think he ended the season on the big league club, but at the same time, he regressed quite a bit. So
I'll tell you what, he wasn't playing. He wasn't playing.
No,
he
was on the bench.
He wasn't playing. So let's we got a few minutes left. I'm gonna put this graphic back up. Again, these are our current offseason moves, additions, and losses as far as players are concerned. So I posed the question on the post for this episode is, what grade are we giving the Astros on their offseason moves as it stands today? So again, you've acquired Mike Burrows via a 3-team trade. Nick Allen is what you received back from Atlanta with the Mauricio Dubon trade. Rodri Munoz was the Rule 5 draft. Now remember, he's got to stay on the 40-man roster the entire season. And if he doesn't, then he goes back to his original team that you drafted him from. And then the free agent signing of Ryan Weiss from the KBO. So you see what we've added. You see what we've lost. If you're grading the Astros offseason move as it is right now, Bryles, what grade are you giving them?
And before I say it, I'm going to go ahead and remind you guys that from what I was talking about, the Jeff Passan tweet where he was going over how much money was being spent via trades, via free agent signings, and then the total overlay for each team. We were in the negative. Mm-hmm. So I can't give this a great grade, but I'm going to put an asterisk by it because I don't know what we're going to get out of Mike Burrows. I have seen highlight films from him where he looks unstoppable, but he is a young, controllable starting pitcher that's got a fantastic arm. So I see him either over and stepping up as that number 2 guy, like I was just talking about, or he could regress and go back to being a number 5, or maybe we even put him in AAA for a little bit. Who knows? So right now, I mean, I would like to say incomplete, but that's not fair. So I'm going to go C- right now. And the reason I say C-, we did address the starting pitching as a need to an extent, but we didn't address it, I think, with the flavor that all of us Astros fans would have liked to have seen. So, I'm going C- as of right now.
All right. So with my grade, it almost sounds like I'm a freaking homer, like Homer Chris. That's what we should call just Chris from now on, is Homer Chris.
Homer Chris.
Right. But I'm going to throw this back up here. So I'm going to go with a B-, and here's why. Right. Again, you've addressed the pitching needs, starting pitching needs, right? Ryan Weiss, Mike Burrows via trade. Okay. You basically swapped a utility player for utility player, younger, cheaper with Nick Allen, right?
Fair enough.
So the B- the reason I want the B- based on what we've done from acquisition standpoint is because you've got young guys that are controllable under team control, right? Like that gives an added bonus, in my opinion, to the grade of the team, because you needed to shed payroll, which is why you're not going to be able to sign Fromber, even if you wanted to resign Fromber, right? Even if the club wanted him back, right? So you had to shed payroll. That was number one thing. Crane doesn't want to have that be above the CBT threshold to where he has to, right? He has to pay the tax. He wants to stay under it. This is also why he does 5-year deals on his guys, which is why we lose most, if not all, of our big guys, right? So you've shed the payroll, right? You've acquired Mike Burrows, young, controllable pitcher. Last offseason, you acquired Cam Smith in a trade, right? Young, controllable. And so I give them the B- solely for getting younger and for getting more controllable players, team controllable players, so that you do have the flexibility to go out and make bigger moves to fill bigger spots potentially if you need to. So I don't know if that's a homer grade. I'm going to go with the B-, and we will see what all you guys see. So, on our Twitter page, all right, please go on there and let us know. Facebook, let us know. I'd be curious to see what the the temperature is from any Astros fan going forward. So, and look, again, I want to thank everyone for tuning in. This was just kind of a little freestyle. This is the last recap. We're probably going to do. We might do one in the next couple of days, to close out 2025. If not, for sure, we'll be back on Sunday, the 3rd. I think the 3rd is on a Sunday. So what I want everyone to do is go like and subscribe to our YouTube page. Make sure you find us on Facebook at Juicebox Heroes. Find us on X at Juice_Box Heroes. Hit that like, subscribe. Make sure your notifications are turned on so that when we post something, you get the push notification. I want to thank Riles, as always, for coming in, holding it down when Chris has to bounce. And look, hope you guys have a great rest of the weekend. Even though Christmas felt like a summer vacation almost. But
yeah.
Until then, man, I hope you guys have a great rest of your night. Great start to your week. Hook 'em horns, right? Let's go. Finish season strong. You guys have a great night. I'm PK. That's Sweet Bee Bones Riles, and we'll holler at you in a few days. Hook 'em, baby.
Yeah, I'll say on my bingo card for this year was not mowing my grass over the Christmas break because it was 84 degrees and everything was still growing.
Yeah,
that was crazy.
Cool.